G'day campers, welcome to another part of our adventures in the high country of Victoria. So welcome again to 1010 Adventures. I did a cooking video a little while ago on a slow cooked pulled pork, and I'm guessing people hated it because nobody watched it, but I don't care, I'm cooking again. So it's our second night out here just north of Lancefield. We're going to do unfortunately going to have to head home tomorrow, but we're going to do a quick pasta for dinner tonight. But it's been so windy that I'm reluctant to use the stove, so I'm actually going to try out our pop-up campfire, the Popup Firepit, and we're going to see how we go cooking a pasta sauce in the Dutch oven, and we're going to use a billy to boil up the pasta. So first things first, a bit of a swig. Much better. Alright. We used chorizo at lunch today, but you can't have too much of a good thing, so I'm going to cut up some chorizo again. The idea here is to make sure that we cut it up reasonably small, because this is going to be in a pasta sauce. A couple of things I'm not putting in, largely because I'm an idiot and I forgot them, is I'm not putting in any garlic or onion because, as I said, I don't have any. But the spice and the smoke from the chorizo, there's chili in there. There's quite a bit of flavour in there. I don't think I'm going to need it. So one thing I'm not doing with this is preheating our camp oven. The reason being, I actually want to render the fat out of the chorizo, just to get that to melt through into everything else we're putting in here. So I'm going to chop up this chorizo, put that in the camp oven, take the camp oven over to the campfire, and put it on for a couple of, probably about a minute or two, just to start rending some of that fat out. I don't want the chorizo to char at all. I don't want it too crispy. I just want to get this nice and just get all that fat cooking through, so it's going to bring some of that fat flavour through the dish. As I said in a previous video that nobody watched, fat equals flavour, so that's why I'm doing it. So let's just move that aside for a second. Bring it. Sorry. I'm just going to scoop that in, and in a moment I'm going to take that over and just start heating that up in the campfire. I'll pop the lid on just for the moment and start prepping up some of the other things that are going to go in here. So I probably should have told you what I'm cooking. That would have been a good idea, wouldn't it? So what I'm doing tonight is a smoked chicken, chorizo and pesto pasta with some mushrooms and cashews. It's a dish I do quite often at home, but again, it's probably the key to good camp cooking. If you can cook food that people enjoy when you're at home, if you can do that when you're out camping, it's just one of those things that people might be detracted from camping because they don't get good food. Cooking good food is one less thing that interferes with people wanting to come camping. It's a good way to get people coming if you don't, if you've got friends that aren't super keen on it. A bit of Woolies brand smoked chicken. It's nice and dark. Okay, so I'm just going to cut these into small cubes. It's finely sliced anyway. Alright. So once I've done the chorizo for a bit, we'll pop that in and we'll add the rest of the ingredients. So I'll be back with you in a moment. Alright, the chorizo is back. I'm just going to pop this over here very gently. lid hooker. Oh, that's sounding lovely in there. Right, just a bit of a move around. Probably still hasn't quite rendered as much fat as I would like. It's sizzling nicely, but just give it a bit of a stir around. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add the chicken just to let that absorb some of that flavour as it rends out now too. Lid wasn't even hot, it was just sizzling nicely. Alright, let's get this back in the fire. And while we're doing this, Carla has put the water on to boil. And that's going this way.
Put that on fully.
Yeah, that's fine. Alright, we'll just cook that for another sort of 5 or so minutes. And then we'll deglaze the lamb. We'll deglaze it with some white wine. Now, while it's cooking, Phoenix, there is nothing here for you. Go away. Phoenix is very interested in what we're doing over here. So what I'm just going to do now is chop up some mushrooms, which I will then throw in a moment. I'm hoping you can hear me over that gust of wind. But let's chop these up. Yeah. I'm doing a reasonably fine cut here because my lovely wife doesn't like chunky mushrooms, so I'm just going to keep them. No, I'm not surprised. I don't think mushrooms would be very good for a dog. Some of the mushroom flew off the bench, and Phoenix is trying to work out whether or not she likes them. What I was going to say is that I've never actually done this particular dish the way that I'm doing it, and the reason I'm doing it this way, partly because it is a bit windy today, so it is a bit difficult for us to use the stove, and after last night we're not going to put out the awning. Last night was an absolute disaster. We actually nearly lost our awning in the rather stiff wind that we had, so we found the first disadvantage of our caravan, and it's not a major deal. It's just a small issue, and that is that there is no there's no indoor kitchen. So on a night like last night, where it was rain coming in sideways, we actually couldn't eat. We couldn't cook anything. So thinking up a couple of things, possibly a portable induction stovetop. Not that I'm super keen on that, but I don't want gas cooking inside, so we're going to weigh up our options on that one. But yeah, just after last night with the wind and so forth, we can't put the awning out. It nearly came off the roof. It nearly bent over backwards. So and in fact, yeah, as we were looking at it going, we need to pull this in. Yeah, that's when we nearly lost it. So I'm just going to go and grab our pot again. I'll just move the mushrooms out of the way because I think these are probably about ready to go into our pot. Yeah, that's gotten quite hot quite quickly. That's more like what I was looking for. So it's getting a little bit crusty. Before I put this back on the fire, so make sure there's not too much stuck to the bottom, and before we deglaze it, the next step really is to make sure we get our mushrooms in and get them to reduce. Mushrooms are one of those lovely vegetables for the non-cookers around amongst you. They do tend to soak up all the moisture in the pan initially, and then they spit out 3 times what they sucked in. So this is going to get very moist in a moment. So the mushrooms are actually going to help partially deglaze the pan. It's not quite deglazing, but it's it's just going to add more moisture to that pan. So I'm just going to let them sit in there for a little bit. I might even bring this back to the fire. Now the interesting bit here is that it's actually giving a quite a nice smoky flavour, which normally you wouldn't get with this dish, but I think it's going to work quite well. That's beyond the smoked chicken, I should say, and the chorizo, they've got smoked essences of themselves, but just being cooked on a campfire, they're getting a nice smoky additional smoke, or a more natural smoke flavour to them, which I think is going to enhance this dish quite a lot. I'm just going to pop the lid back on, if I can. Whew, that's warm. That's alright. Alright, let's go put it back on the fire. So that's back on the fire. Can't cook without something to wet your whistle. I'm just going to let those mushrooms reduce for a little bit, and then we'll come back and we'll get on to stage, pretty much the final stage, of then just letting this simmer and reduce. I mentioned when we were cooking the jaffles at lunchtime, Carla can't have cow's milk, so this is normally a creamy dish, but you can't cook a creamy dish without cream. Or can you? Goat's cheese. For anybody that's intolerant of cow's milk, stirring this through a pasta sauce, it does give it a little bit more tang, but really, really good thickened cream substitute. We stumbled on, well, we worked out doing this 6 years ago, I think, when we actually first found out that Carla was intolerant to cow's milk, and we were trying all sorts of different things. A little bit more history about myself. I've got a background in the hospitality sector. I've spent a lot of time in front of house and back of house. Creamy dishes, French style cooking is pretty much what I've mostly grown up doing. Very hard to do French cooking without cream. So finding that this worked was just, it was something we tried. I didn't really read about this anywhere or see any YouTube guides or anything else. Really, really thrilled with how this worked. So if any of you guys watching are dairy intolerant, but you can have things like goat's milk and goat's cheese, give it a go. It works well. Alright, let's go and see how those mushrooms are going. Yeah, it's looking good. Let's pop that down. Another stir through. Yeah, you can see now there's actually quite a bit of moisture at the bottom. That's not just oil, that's actually moisture out of the mushrooms. Alright, so in for the next couple of ingredients. Cashews. That's just adds a little bit of something to this dish. And no, I'm not doing the whole bag, but I'm going to put quite a few in there, because they do add just a beautiful element, beautiful flavour to this. Also, keep the cashews out of the way of the dog. I don't know if they're as bad as macadamia nuts, but nuts in general I don't think are good for dogs. My wife can probably confirm that better, but I don't think it's a good idea to have your dog eating cashews and peanuts, and definitely not macadamia nuts. Macadamia nuts will kill your dog. It builds up a level of toxicity and they will kill them. Grab that. Bit of plastic flying away. One thing I absolutely hate is seeing rubbish around campsites, so everything's going in my pocket until I can put it in the bin. So just yeah, I just can't stand seeing crap left all over the campsites. It's just not cool for the next person. And more to the point, this is also somebody's personal property, so I really don't want that just flying around anywhere. Next ingredient, pesto. Now I'm going to tip this in first, because I'm going to actually rinse out the the container with some white wine, which will also help deglaze that pan a little bit. It's probably not hot enough in the pan now to properly deglaze, but that's okay. We're still going to get some really good, flavours through this anyway. The purpose of deglazing is just to take all those caramelised, basically all the sugar that's in the ingredients naturally is, well, just before you burn something, and you get that nice brown crust, that's caramelising. It's basically all the sugars cooking and creating almost like a candy outside, not without being overly sweet. Alright, that's the pesto. Let's just stir this through for a little bit. Alright, I'm going to make this a little bit moister than I normally would. Much to my wife's distress, I'm going to use more wine than I would normally. Sorry, honey. I'm getting looks. How dare I use the wine in the cooking? Because wine equals flavour, bubby. But she knows, she tells me. Alright. And then I'm going to put this whole piece of goat's cheese in there. Or goat's curd, I should say. So it is a cheese, but it's a curd, so it's not fully matured like a cheddar or a brie or something like that. It's not aged like that. It's a soft cheese. It's closer to probably a feta, without being as salty. It's a really creamy flavour. Being goats, though, it does have, if you're not familiar with goat's cheese, it's got a bit of a tartness to it. Cooking it does seem to take a little bit of that tartness out, but it does have a little bit of tartness to it that we don't taste it at all. Now, whether that's because we're used to it, I really don't know. It's entirely possible that we are used to it. It's not going to melt through fully just yet, so it's going to need some time on the coals just to start melting through, because we've got to bring this up to the boil, obviously. See, look at that. That's just beautiful. Melting through. Partially melting anyway. Alright. The problem with doing this way is that we are, unfortunately, sort of stopping that cooking process as we go. And, alright, I think there is one more ingredient. Just to add a little bit of extra flavour. Goat's cheese, lovely. Just a jelly chicken stock. Just one of the Campbells chicken stock jelly cube things. That just adds a little bit more flavour to it, and helps cut back on some of that astringent, no, not astringent, but that tartness from the goat's cheese. All right, I'm going to pop the lid back on now. We'll take that back over to the fire, and I reckon that we are good to leave that for probably about 20 minutes, half an hour, I'd say. It's going to be in there for a while, I will say that. But I'm going to need to stir it regularly. We obviously don't want anything burning to the bottom of the Dutch oven. Our fire is actually quite hot. I'm going to take my little porta cam and we're going to pop that down on the fire. I'm going to put it down and it flies into my face. Reasonably centered without too much of an angle on it. That's better. Alright. So the blue billy there's just got our water for the pasta. That's boiled already. That's boiled far sooner than we needed it. But it does tell you how hot the coals are in this. Yeah, Carla just said she put it on the cool end of the pop-up fire pit. So that gives you an idea just how much heat this fire pit will hold on that aluminium mesh floor. This has got some really good heat through it. So there was a commenter a little while ago asking about cooking on the pop-up fire pit. They were thinking more from a barbecue perspective, putting a grill plate on top and so forth. Look, in essence, it'd probably be exactly the same. I don't think you'd have any issue at all cooking on this. with a grill top, if you've got a good bed of coals. There is a grill top that comes with this.
No.
Phoenix, you've already proven you don't like mushrooms. Oh, she ate them all. Okay.
Good girl, but down.
Good girl. Ember being the good girl that she always is, just sound asleep. Alright, so yeah, sorry, I'm being interrupted by naughty girls. Yeah, look, I think with the optional grill plate that comes with this, we haven't bought it yet, it's about $100, so we're umming and ahhing whether or not it's worth getting. I think it probably is, especially given this is the only way we're cooking this weekend. Yeah, I think it'd be worth getting, but obviously the Minister of Finance, who's sitting to my right, needs to decide whether or not we're doing that. But all in all, it should be a good way to cook. We'll be back in a little bit. We'll let this cook for the next sort of 10-15 minutes. Give it a stir, and we'll see how we go from there.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
All right, so let's see how we go taking the top off this and just see how it looks inside. You see it's boiling. But you see that goat's cheese still hasn't quite melted, so I'm just going to stir that through now. I'm actually thinking...
Leave the lid off for a bit.
Yeah, I'm going to leave the lid off. That's exactly what I'm thinking, Bubby. Your voice is going to be on camera now. Oh no!
Oh shit! Oh my god!
You don't want that, and you're swearing. He's going to demonetize us. Oh wait, we don't make any money.
People need to subscribe to us so that we can make money to demonetize us.
That's right, when you swear, because you do that all the time. My wife is a potty mouth. Just for those playing.
I'm sure Kristen will support that.
Alright, I'm going to take the lid off and I'll leave that as is.
Yum 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 yum. Probably fog up the lens.
So I'm just going to twist that slightly so it's not boiling on one edge. Alright. Take that off because we don't want that. No, so it's sticking
Oof,
to the edge.
it's hot. Oof.
It is hot, but that's looking really good. Nice and creamy, nice and green. If you don't like green pasta, this dish isn't for you. Yeah, just put the lid on this, just keep it, but that is actually now ready. Let's give it a bit of a stir and to show you it's quite thick now, so it's not too loose or watery. That's about where we want it. That's really going to coat the pasta really nicely. Just so you know, I haven't poisoned myself. Oh, hun, how good is the smoke flavour in this? The worst part of this is that it is so quick and easy to cook. Now that I've had it the way we've just cooked it, which just goes to show you can cook anything in a Dutch oven, I don't think I'm going to be allowed to cook this at home on the stove anymore. This is really good. Now get the thumbs up, honey? Yeah, that gets the thumbs up. Well guys, thanks for watching another episode. As I said before, like, subscribe, comment below. We'll see you in the next one.
Yum 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 yum.